Good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, June 5th, 2024, and I would like to call to order this rescheduled meeting of the Board of Directors of the Chittenden Solid Waste District. The meeting was originally scheduled for May 22nd, but due to concerns about having a quorum, we opted to postpone the meeting until this evening. There is a quorum present. Before we dive into the agenda, I did want to make a couple of acknowledgements. We have the departures of several commissioners who have served us for many, many years. Most notably among them is Liz Hamlin-Volz, who served in the town of Colchester since 2020, so that's 4 years of service, and we very much appreciate the service and interest and expertise that she brought to the board. We also have the departure of the commissioner and the alternate from Huntington, Roman Livak and Landau Cochran. They had not been attending the meetings much in the recent years. I remember Roman had in the past when we were meeting in Williston. We thank them for their service, and we have some new commissioners and alternates that I'd like to welcome to the board. The first is Lauren Morlino, representing Colchester. She's with us in the meeting room tonight. Welcome, Lauren, and we will do our best to get you up to speed as quickly as possible, but there's a lot to get under your belt, but feel free to speak up and ask questions and make a contribution right from the get-go. But we're very pleased to have you with us. Also, Barb Winters will be the commissioner from Huntington. She is unavailable tonight, will not be able to attend. And Guthrie Smith is the alternate from Huntington, and I am not sure if he is able to attend via Zoom. He's not present in the room. I want to extend a welcome to them as well, and look forward to their contributions to the Board of Commissioners and the affairs of the district going forward. So thank you again for the service of our retiring members, and welcome to our new members. With that, we'll move on to the agenda. The first item on the agenda is the agenda itself. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda that are requested?
The request was to address other business prior to the executive session, so that would be the only change to the agenda.
Which we will honor, so that should there be other business, that will take place before the executive session, should there be an executive session. Are there any other requests for changes or additions to the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda will be accepted as presented with the one change as noted, that other business will precede executive session. Next item on the agenda is the public comment period. Are there any members of the public present, either in person, via the phone, or via Zoom, who would wish to address the Board of Commissioners? I have heard of none, just by way of protocol, that we have not had members of the public recently, but generally my preference is that should we have members of the public wishing to address us, we give them each upwards of 5 minutes to bring whatever matter they would want to us. If it's a longer issue, then we would take it under advisement, ask them to come back and get on the agenda. Just wanted to make that known. But seeing as there are no members of the public present, we will close the public comment period. Move on to the consent agenda, which appears on page 3 of the meeting packet, consisting of the minutes of the April 24th, 2024 Board of Commissioners meeting, program update memos, the executive director update, the finance report, monthly finance report, and the update from the Justice, Equity, Diversion, and Inclusion Committee. Are there any requests to pull an item from the consent agenda for further discussion? Hearing none, the consent agenda will be accepted as presented in the packet, and we're ready to move now on to item 4E, which is preparation for the June annual organizational meeting. It starts on page 26 of the meeting packet, and I'll turn it over to Sarah to walk us through those procedures.
Okay, thank you very much. So at the next meeting, which is our normally scheduled June meeting, it's the 4th Wednesday of the month. That is when we will have our annual organizational meeting. And this meeting is described in our charter as falling on this date each year. And this is where we elect our officers, we elect the executive board, and we also conduct certain aspects of business that have to be renewed each year. So the memo describes that process, and it's a little bit more involved since we do meet in a hybrid fashion. And so that's why the memo is a little bit longer than it would have been prior to COVID. But it does describe, again, the charter guidance, and there's some description of the process. So the first step would be to submit nominations for any of the positions. And the elected positions are chair, vice chair, and treasurer, and I am secretary. And I'm realizing that I forgot to put the current incumbents in this particular memo. So our current chair is Paul Roos, our vice chair is Alan Nye, our treasurer is Paul Stabler, and our secretary is Amy Jewell. So those are the officers for the current fiscal year. The executive board is comprised of Paul Roos, Alan Nye, Paul Stabler, Lee Perry, and Kelton Bogowski. So those are the elected positions. The finance committee is made up of the treasurer of the board and 2 additional members who are appointed by the chair. And each position is for 1 year. The finance committee is 1 year. The executive board is 1 year. So every year there's a new election. So.
And the finance committee members now, just to get their names out.
Oh, yes, finance committee members, so Paul Stabler, Rick McCraw, and Leslie Nolte, thank you. I was blanking on that. So those are the current members of the finance committee. So for finance committee, if you are interested in serving on that, please let Paul know. And he generally will appoint at some point after the organizational meeting, generally in July, early July, but you can let him know there as well.
Not to be presumptuous, but it would be the board chair who appoints it. I might not be the board
Oh,
chair,
good point.
depending on the elections.
Thank you very much.
Or one's willingness to run, but
Thank you very much. True.
the
You are
position
correct.
appoints the.
You are correct. The chair appoints the committee. So for the nominations, if all that's required is to let me know you're interested. So if you could send me an email by close of business on Friday, June 14th, our close of business is 4:30 p.m. You could also send me a text, you can give me a call. So just let me know, and then I will put the nominated folks onto another memo, a new memo, and that will be in the packet for the meeting on the 26th, that you'll receive a week ahead of time. You can self-nominate, you can ask someone to nominate you. If someone else nominates you, we do ask that you accept the nomination or reject the nomination. Nominations may be made on the floor at the time of the meeting, so you don't have to announce ahead of time, but you certainly can. And same thing, if nominations are made on the floor, you can either self-nominate or have someone nominate you. So the tricky bits come if there are any contested contests. And so that process is described in the memo. And essentially so you don't have to be here in person. We have devised a methodology where, we will basically be setting up individual breakout rooms, and then someone will be pulling you into the breakout room, receive your vote, and release you back into the public meeting if you are virtual in attendance on that, on the 26th. Here, we'll just do paper ballots for anyone who is in the room and collect those. So there will be a teller. Amy actually is the secretary, but she will be out of town on that date. But we will have a teller and another, I think, non-officer, maybe it's even another staff member, tally those votes, and we report out the results at that meeting. So we take each role in turn. So we will elect the chair first, and then we will go vice chair, treasurer, secretary, and then we elect the executive board after that. On the executive board, there is, the chair is a automatic member of the executive board, and then there are 4 positions available to the remainder of the commissioners. Are there questions about the process?
would only add encouragement for anybody to step forward to serve in any of these positions. If you're not comfortable doing that, I'd also say that the meetings, the executive board meets generally on the third Monday of the month. Our board meetings again are on the fourth Wednesday of the month. Finance committee has been meeting on
It has been a Tuesday, but then.
Usually is that quarterly?
quarterly,
Mhm.
quarterly. Even if you do not wish to serve in an official capacity, those meetings are open to commissioners, and I strongly encourage you to attend those meetings. There is a lot that you can learn about the district, and a little bit deeper dive sometimes on issues. It's a great way to participate more fully in the life and the processes of our district. So you don't have to be elected, but please consider attending.
I'll just mention that our next finance committee meeting is this coming Tuesday, so.
5 p.m.
Are there any questions or about the organizational meeting? Lee?
Are the finance meetings hybrid as well, or?
They're pretty much all Zoom at this point.
Yeah. We do have a meeting space here, but at least one member is always online.
Gotcha. And hybrid meetings are authorized in perpetuity now?
That's a good question.
I believe so.
You have
So?
to, I believe, you have to offer that in person and hybrid.
Okay, yeah, because that was, every year they're changing it or
Making
extending it
adjustments
for
to
the
it.
COVID conditions, but so now it is allowed to have both. But we have to have a physical presence,
You do.
but then
Yes.
we're allowed to have hybrid.
Any other questions or discussion? And again, June 14th is the big date to for nominations, but if,
For ahead of time.
yeah, to prep, no need to prepare any campaign speeches.
No.
I don't believe is necessary, signage. We can, there are no further questions, then we'll move on to item number 5, which is the MRF Construction Bids. And I will turn this over to Sarah for walking us through where we're at right now.
Great, thank you very much. And I want to thank Jen and Josh as well for being here, but for all of the hard work that they have put into this project, as well as thanking Kaylee Barber, who's our project manager, and Tony Barbagallo, who has served as a consultant in the process. So we've had a really good team working on this for the past year. So a little bit of background for newer members or members of the public. CSWD has owned a materials recovery / recycling facility since 1992. We opened in 93. And we own one of the 2 facilities in the state. Our current facility is located over just behind us in Williston. And it is at the end of its useful life. So several years ago, many years ago, actually now at this point, 6-ish years ago, we started talking about constructing, actually 7 years ago, been here a while, a new facility to basically modernize the facility and be able to, at some point down the road, expand what we accept and be able to handle more material and to bring some technology into the mix. So in 2022, we asked the voters of Chittenden County to support a bond to help support the construction of the facility, the new facility. And that overwhelmingly, over 80% of voters approved that bond. So we went out to bid for design services for the building. We awarded a contract for processing equipment to bulk handling systems. And this most recent RFP was to select a contractor to actually physically build the shell. So this is the contract that you have before you tonight, is the construction contract award. So we sent out the RFP back in March, and we received 3 bids, and they were all deemed to be qualified bidders. And the details there are below, and a summary of the services that we are expecting from the contractor. And from the 3 bids, we selected to interview 2 of the firms, Rear Company and Negley and Chase. And from there, We talked with them both about ways to hone the pricing. And so when we talk about value engineering, that was what that means, is to, okay, let's take a look at the proposal and see if there are ways to make the project more cost effective, and that's what that term references. They both did come back with some great suggestions, and the final proposal prices after the value engineering are found on page 29. So we, again, based on the interview, the proposal, and the price, we are recommending awarding the contract to REARC Company.
I just interrupted, I don't know if it's possible to get this page on the screen.
Is that possible to share the screen, Amy?
I just think having those numbers in front of us
Sure.
might be helpful, especially for the public who might be looking at this later, and
Good,
doesn't have access to the packet.
very good. While Amy is looking for that, we were very impressed by REACT's approach to the project. They are very excited to build this facility. They feel that it aligns with their own philosophy of projects that they like to do and that they can get excited about, and working with municipalities and just really making a mark on the community, and they feel like this is a strong candidate for their own portfolio and being able to do that. So if you're still searching for that ability, so the after value engineering proposal price from REARC Company is $14,491,959, and the after value engineering price from Nagley and Chase Construction Company was $15,353,700. So there is a difference, pretty significant difference between the two pricing of about $861,000. So we went and verified their references, all were glowing. Oh, there it is, great. So we're on page 29.
It's not, I need to share it though, because there was
Forward back, yep, there we go. Thanks, Amy.
A little bit farther down.
So we're on page 29 of the PDF. Easy to go all the way to the end and then scooch back.
There we go.
Right there. Thank you very much. So those are, that would be the recommendation. And, some of the questions were kind of related to the funding of the project, because with the value engineering, it came in under our internal estimate, still higher than obviously we're hoping and would have liked to have seen. So that's where also in the memo I talk about where we would pull funds from should we not be able to access any grants over the next year. We'll continue to look for some grants, but we don't fit neatly into the categories that are available through the federal government. We've asked the state several times if they have any funding available. They have told us repeatedly they do not. So we'll be looking to other NGOs, non-governmental organizations who may be able to further support some of our efforts. We did receive a grant from the Recycling Partnership, and they have other opportunities potentially as well, but not $4 million worth, that's for sure, unfortunately. So we do have sufficient funds in our reserves, and the revenue coming in from the current MRF right now is exceeding our budget, so there will be additional money that will be able to go into the capital reserve from the existing MRF. Similarly with the solid waste management fee revenue, that is running higher this year than had been budgeted, so we will have some money to go into the capital reserve to offset the additional costs. questions first at this point, and then I have a little bit extra to tell you.
Just got one observation, you have tip fees increased from 75 to 90. 85, wasn't it?
So in the revenue sufficiency, we had modeled it at 75.
Oh, gotcha.
Right, so when we did, so then we increased it to 80 and then I think to 85 and then for fiscal 25 is 90.
Questions at this point from commissioners? Leslie, your hand is up, go ahead.
Thanks. Was there any discussion about timing, delays in getting sufficient manpower, delays in materials? These project delays could push back the revenue stream. Will there be some kind of provision for unanticipated price increases? I'm just trying to think about what the big glitches could be.
Oh, just you wait. Yes, so they, REARC has offered to add to the contract liquidated damages. So that shows their commitment to their timeline. They are confident that they will be able to meet our required timeline. So what we are asking, what we asked in the RFP was that we have the MRF be complete, substantially complete. So get to the point where BHS can load and start to build out the systems, the processing systems, while the construction firm is completing other items, other things along on the site. So they confirmed they committed to meeting that deadline and then offered liquidated damages if they do not. So we did have a delay, we've already had a delay of a couple of weeks. We are anticipating that there will be a further delay. So what we would do in the contract negotiations would be to reestablish that new expected date for the substantial completion. And then from that point on, we would assess the liquidated damages if they don't meet that deadline. So that would be part of the contract negotiation, a renegotiation of that deadline. And there's a reason that we're needing to renegotiate that, which I will explain in a moment.
Other questions or comments?
I have a question. What was value engineered out from first?
Yeah, so there was about a page and a half of items that REARC felt that they could realize some savings. So, and I should have pulled that list up. Jen, Josh, off the top of your heads, do you remember some of the kind of the higher?
The highest was the performance bond, but that's not in this figure.
Actually, so the performance bond was an item that was about 89,000, but the highest I think was the painting.
Yes.
So we had required in the RFP that the inside of the building be not just primed, but painted with 2 coats of paint, and that adds significant costs. So in talking to our engineers and the designers, they both of the firms said, "Are you sure you want that? Because that's a few $100,000. And we said, maybe we don't. So in talking to the engineers, they said, no, actually, because of what this building is, it's not likely that you actually need that level of 2 coats of paint on the entire interior of a building, for example. Performance bond was one. There was, we actually reduced the size of the entrance road. We had over-engineered it and reduced that size, so that reduced what had to be dug, what had to be filled, what had to be paved. So those were some things that we.
Construction dumpsters.
So we figured, hey, we're a waste district, we can probably manage that. So we'll be taking on that responsibility.
Vapor barrier for the roof.
Yeah, so there were a slew of things, like I said, about a page and a half of items, and some we accepted, some we didn't. Some we said, no, that is something we actually want to keep and is important, but that added up to over $500,000. So we said, you know what? We, you always want to engineer for as much as you can, and then you say, does that fit into the estimate of the cost? And if not, where do we? do something different.
Okay.
So those are some examples of.
Thank you.
Margaret, your hand is up?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, how quickly do you think you'll get to this new date and, this will get started? Is that, are you confident that will happen quickly?
Let's
Yeah.
answer that in a few minutes, see if there are other questions before we dive into that.
Yeah, because it is related.
Rick, your hand is up. But you're muted.
My apologies. So with regard to the revenue sufficiency, what is the time frame associated with these estimates? Is the tip fee, when do we expect the tip fee to become $90? Are we anticipating that the ACR is going to be at $100 a ton for the next 5 years, starting when? I don't notice any time frame in that discussion.
Yeah, so the $90 takes effect July 1.
So that
So
was
that
part of
is-
our new budget. Forgive me for
Correct.
forgetting.
Yeah,
Okay.
correct. And the ACR is currently at about $92 a ton right now, $92.50. So, and again, that average commodity revenue, as this board knows, does fluctuate. But the quicker that we can get to the new MRF and assuring the high quality of mainly of the fiber products and keeping containers out of the fiber products, keeping plastic film, et cetera, that will ensure that that material, the cardboard and our paper products, maintain that high value. And because that's over 70% of what we process through the MRF, we want to make sure that that has that high value. The value for cardboard in particular has continued to climb and has remained on the higher side for the last 8 months or so. The forecast for that remaining at a stable to high level is fairly good because new domestic processing capacity has come online in the past 12 to 18 months. So now that there's more mills locally, particularly in the Northeast, that are willing, able, and have capacity to accept this material, there's more competition for it. So the higher the quality, the more we can produce, the more assured that we would be of getting that higher price for that material. So, and so that helps give some confidence for, again, that 75% of the material that is fiber to maintain that higher value. Plastics go up and down quite regularly. The optical sorters will again create very, very clean bales of material, which, again, it's not only a high quality because, we don't regulate that pricing, but we can say, can certify, hey, this bale is 98.5% what you expect it to be, mill owner, processor. And then, just being able to move the material regularly, quickly out the door for as high a price as we can is critical. So, do we expect that it'll be at $100 a ton average over the next 5 years? You have to pick a modeling number. We always budget on the low end. We had budgeted for $80. It's coming in at $92. So, we have good confidence that this equipment will provide that quality that is needed to be able to, again, shop our material around and secure as good a price as we can. So, am I going to guarantee you $100 a ton, Rick, for the next 5 years? I will not do that. But everything points to being able to have a much better shot with this new equipment at being able to ride on that high side of the ACR.
So in answer to my question then, so the $100 per ton estimate is when the new MRF comes online. We're not anticipating it's going to be $100 a ton from now on.
Correct.
The tip fee is immediate, but the ACR projection is downline.
Yes, it just happens that it's close now. But yes, that is the projected for when we commission the MRF.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions on this, up to this point in the presentation? I would just want to underscore, as Sarah has mentioned in the memo, that even though costs have come in higher than expected. They're manageable. You're doing your value engineering. This is not, not a unique experience for CSWD, but at this point in time, we do have adequate reserves to cover this additional cost. And I think that's important for the board to understand that we still have funds available to make this project work.
Absolutely. And we are building in contingency amounts, to the project price, just as a hedge. And, REARC is, again, they're committed to the project, and I think as the project goes along, if they can identify additional areas to save, they will, and pass that along to us. Bryn has it.
Bryn?
Hi, evening, everybody. Can you just remind me, Sarah, because of this is an industrial facility, does that fall outside of the commercial building energy standards requirements?
That would be a great question for REARC and for Greg, our permitter, probably.
Yeah, I think we talked about this maybe a year or so ago, and I just wanted to confirm the new CVs is effective July 1st, 2024. So I wanted to be sure that if it does apply to this project, that's being accounted for in terms of the anticipated expenses.
Bryn, I don't know, it's ringing a bell that our architect from AES has been all over that as part of the conversations. And there was an argument that he's made for why we don't fall into that standard, but we can get clarification from him just to double check it.
Yeah, it's better to have assurance than to find out after the fact, I guess.
Yeah.
But I do agree. I think we covered some discussion on that before, and I just dotting I's and crossing T's.
Yeah,
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Any additional questions or comments up to this point in time with the REARC, proposed REARC contract? We're not yet ready to entertain a motion for that with additional information. I guess turn it back over to you, Sarah.
Right. So one of the interesting parts about this project is just how we've had to kind of navigate and maneuver through the permitting process and all of the different pieces that have to kind of fall in line and work well together and follow after each other, one after the other. One of the components that we had initially checked off the box very, very early was our wetlands delineation for the site. So we had this, started back in 2019, worked on 2020, 2021, because we knew that it was important and we needed to make sure that we got that taken care of. A couple of weeks ago, the state wanted to come back out and take another look at the delineations. And so we have a meeting with the state tomorrow, and to understand better what their process needs to be, what their concerns might be. I'm guessing it's, since we started the process 4 years ago, we obviously have had some significant rain events over the past couple of summers that I'm thinking, again, if I'm to guess, they may be feeling have altered the site. So what does this mean? This means an initial hiccup to the timeline, which gets at Leslie's question and Margie's question. We don't know if we will be required to redelineate the site, and if that is the case, that is probably a pretty significant hit to the timeline. There would be an additional cost, and then the hope is that we don't have to go back to any of our existing permittors. I don't believe we would, because wetlands is kind of its own animal within the state, and the town doesn't deal with that, and it's its own thing. So once we have a better idea, and we couldn't get a meeting with them until tomorrow, unfortunately. But I wanted the board to be made aware that there could be a potential bump in the road on the timeline. Could also be a potential bump in the road on the dollar amount. So if there is an issue with the delineation, and again, we've been assured from some folks that we've talked to that this will be considered a priority project for the wetlands group to be able to look at this very quickly, but we don't govern their timeframe. The worst case scenario is we would miss this year's construction season and have to start next year. That is the worst case scenario. I think the best case timeline scenario is we lose 2 months, 2.5 months. If we can continue along with the wetlands folks and they're able to process things through quickly, and we can get going, and I had the conversation with REARC today, so I see Phil is on the line, thanks Phil for joining. Then we can be doing some things in around the same time as Wetlands is doing their project, their part of the project. But we can't break ground until we have that permit in hand. So I wanted the board to be aware that there was a hopefully it's just a hiccup, might be a speed bump, hoping it's not a glitch. Pick your synonym for the variations and potential issues. Questions?
Leslie, I don't know. Go to Leslie and then Paul Stabler.
Thanks for sharing that. I'm sure it was not great news for you. Would it be possible for you to circulate a report on that meeting to the board
Yes.
thereafter? Because if it's going to be a significant impact on the if we're looking at a worst case scenario, I would think the board will want to look again at the financial projections, or certainly the finance committee would want to look again at the projections, because we've already borrowed the money, right?
Well, we borrowed less than half. So that's a little bit of good news, I think, is that we haven't yet applied for the final tranche of the bond proceeds. And you may remember, but also for benefits of new members, the initial slug of money, the 10 million, we have a 4-year interest-only payment on that. So we're not paying yet the interest and the principal is for the next 3 years.
I'm just saying your worst case scenario description of a year's delay will definitely have a significant cash flow impact. And, we should get an early heads up. Maybe it'll be nothing, maybe it'll be something, but I'm just asking that we be informed so that if we have to do some kind of internal review or recrunching to make sure we're all satisfied, we should start sooner rather than later.
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks, Leslie. Paul Stabler.
Yeah, will we incur any additional expenses from VHS if they have to delay the installation due to the building not being ready?
There's, I think there's about a month wiggle room for them. So they're aiming for the March 3rd deadline, but there are certain, if they have an extra couple of weeks, they'll be fine. If it's much, much longer than that, then the issues become storage and then deployment of their personnel. So they've got people in the calendar now, ready set to deploy in March. And if they need to wait or move, then they may need to juggle some things around. But as far as ordering the equipment, it takes a year anyway to construct and all of that. So they're still within their time frame. But we do have we've got some wiggle room with them as well.
Okay, thanks.
Other initial comments or questions? I'll step in and say that the issue before us really is still approving this contract or authorizing Sarah to enter into negotiations with REARC. We have an uncertain time frame but it could be very short, it could be longer. If it's short, we still have an interest in authorizing Sarah to move ahead with this so that we can get going on it as soon as possible.
Right.
I would imagine if it is a longer time frame, we will have to revisit this. I'm sure REARC would also want to revisit this at some point. But I just want to remind us, the issue that we're really dealing with tonight is authorizing the contract. We've been informed about potential delays, but I want to keep us focused on that and render a decision so that we can hopefully move forward and empower Sarah to get these final details going, get a contract in place, and break ground should everything fall into place. So. And with that, I guess we have a motion that's in the packet.
Don't move, Jericho.
Let's get the motion read out. Thank you, Leslie. Can we have a motion read into the record?
Sure. Be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners authorizes the Executive Director to negotiate a contractual agreement with REARC Company located in South Burlington, Vermont, for services specific to project numbers 5265 Material Recycling Facility for an amount not to exceed $14,500,000, a contingency of 5% of the construction project fee proposal, $725,000, shall be authorized, expended only with the approval of the Executive Director.
And Leslie, you moved the motion? She did? Leslie?
Seconded Essex.
Okay, it's been moved by Jericho, seconded by Essex. Open it up for discussion. This is a big dollar item. An important decision by the board. It's been thoroughly prepped and reviewed. Alan?
$750,000 contingency. Is there contingency in the bid price? Did you?
We did not, no, we did not ask for contingency in the bid price. This is our own added contingency.
Further thoughts, Alan? You're good? Other questions or discussion? I think then we're ready for the motion, ready for the question. All those in favor of the resolution which authorizes the Executive Director to negotiate a contractual agreement with REARC Company. That's what's before us. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, Kelton Wilson.
Thank you, Kelton. Opposed, please say nay and identify yourself if you're on the phone. Any abstentions? The motion carries.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
You've got Smith is on.
Yes, thank you, Guthrie. I just wanted to acknowledge, I don't know if you were on at the beginning of the meeting, but just wanted to acknowledge for everybody, Guthrie joining us from Huntington as Huntington's new alternate. And again,
you.
Thank you, Guthrie.
Sarah will keep us updated.
Yes, I will send out, so the meeting is tomorrow at 2:30. I will send out an update Friday morning.
That concludes item 5, MRF Construction Bids. I do not believe we have a need for an executive session. We can go right to other business. Is there other business to be brought before the Board of Commissioners this evening? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved Essex.
Second, South Burlington.
Second Wilson.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye, Kelton Wilson.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? We are adjourned.